money and like started to actually furnish the house with things like sofas and cushions. Since we're going to be working from home for a little while, you know. Actually, I've got a full lighting set up and everything going on today. And this is my office at home, and I've been spending a bit of time getting it better set up for this kind of thing because it's happening like most days now, really. But it's the Sunday session I look forward to the most, of course.
Well, we have to adapt in every way we can. How is everything with the Corona thing now in the UK?
Nothing much has changed since last week, to be honest with you. Other than the fact that our lockdown has been extended, which was, I think, pretty much expected by everyone anyway. So we're just still kind of muddling along, really, waiting for things to improve. So it's making the best of the situation, which is exactly what this is all about, really, isn't it? I mean, we get to taste and talk and all that kind of thing, which is something we probably wouldn't have done otherwise. So it's cool.
Yeah. Well, with the Sunday sessions wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this. So when the ban is off and everything's go back to normal, if it ever will be back to normal, we'll probably do the Sunday sessions, but you can actually, I will probably travel around and do the Sunday sessions instead. So we actually have a long term to this. But today, last time we tried grönt te, which was really something special, and you did two excellent cocktails. This time we're gonna go back a little bit and try MACK, which I think is like the most outstanding thing for MACK Myra, and probably if you know what I mean, the youngest product, all in both age and also in attitude. It's actually made for a younger crowd, not the really young crowd, but a younger crowd than the regular whiskey drinkers. And what have you had a chance to try it yet?
Unfortunately, no. Actually, I haven't tried it. In fact, I literally just cracked this bottle about a couple of minutes before we started the broadcast. So, I mean, would you say it's more designed for mixing then, or is it to be sipped, or is it both?
I would say both. But like when you do a really good sipping whiskey, if you know what I mean, that could be enjoyed by everybody. You also do a whiskey that goes really well in cocktails. I think those two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So it's a younger whiskey, aged on bourbon cask, and you can really feel that when you try it.
You know what? The first thing that stands out to me on the aroma is there's a sort of apple note to it, which is absolutely fantastic because I had read a little bit about this whiskey, but now that I smell it and it smells of apple, it's going to work perfectly with my drink, which has got apple juice in it. So that's nice to see.
Yeah, you can really feel the apple. It's more like an apple pie, like a tart tatin in.
Yeah, I'd say cooked apple. Not apple sauce, because apple sauce tends to be a bit shit. But like you say, tart tatin, or like you know when you like poach apples off in like wine or something like that. It's reminiscent of that, I would say.
Yeah, it's a matured apple in a good way.
Yeah, matured apple.
Exactly. But since we're talking about apples and MACK, we talked a little bit before what you're going to do, what kind of cocktail you're doing today, and you're doing a highball.
Yeah. So given that it is a younger spirit, I think that kind of opens up opportunities for highballs, really, because that kind of lighter stuff. With highballs, you don't want to have too much oak characteristic on the spirit, in my opinion, because oak, once it's lengthened out with soda, can become a little bit cloying, and it can dominate the drink. And it's hard to make a drink taste refreshing when there's a overwhelming woodiness to it, I think. So what you want in the whiskey that you're mixing into highballs is fragrance, freshness. Perhaps it's orchard fruit characteristics like this, or maybe it's like grassy green notes, which this has also got, really, or herbaceous notes. And then that gives you options when you come to lengthening it out, because you can pair it with orchard fruits, or you can pair it with citrus fruits. You can use herbs, and which is exactly what I'm going to do here. My ice has melted slightly, so I'm going to. Normally, what we do behind the bar is we tip a little bit of that water away, but I don't have a sink here, so I'm just going to actually sip the water to get it out of the
Very
glass.
healthy.
So exactly, I need hydrating anyway. So the glass I've got here actually is quite a small highball glass. Although it looks normal size, the glass is crazy thick. And if you see there, it's called a bullet glass because the inside is sort of shaped like a bullet. It's pointy here. Super, super heavy as well. So actually it doesn't take a lot of volume. So I'm going to use slightly smaller measurements than I probably normally would in a highball. I'm probably only going to use 25 ml of the whiskey, but also proportionately less of the other ingredients as well. But normally I'd probably go something like 35 ml of the MACK. And then what I'm going to do is top it up with apple juice and soda water. That's it. So you're the apple juice is providing sweetness, but it's also going to amplify some of those like green herbaceous and orchard fruit characteristics that are in the whiskey. And then the soda is going to provide effervescence. It's going to provide a bit of dilution. The effervescence is important because it gives a sensation of freshness as you're drinking it as well, and liveliness and all that kind of thing. And then I've got a really cool garnish for it as well. So let's start with the MACK. So yeah, like I say, about 25 ml. See how quickly this glass fills up.
Yeah.
And then we'll go like about 30 ml of apple juice. Okay. I'm actually using a relatively cheap apple juice from concentrate, which is controversial. You would think you're going to want to get the best quality ingredients and all that kind of thing. But what I've found over the years is that actually apple juice from concentrate, when mixed with soda water, performs often better than your freshly pressed, cloudy apple juice. And that seems to be to do with the sweetness of it, and the fact that I don't really want that kind of cloudiness. I want it to be clear or transparent. So you've got that impression of clarity and of freshness. Give that a little stir, and then I'm gonna have to sip a little bit of that because otherwise my garnish is going to make it overflow. One sec. This is one of the great things about making drinks at home is you can just kind of taste them as you go. And
this
then,
would have been weird to doing in your own bar.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. It wouldn't really set the right kind of tone for the thing. Yeah.
A different tone, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially with coronavirus. To garnish, I mean, you could garnish with a lot of different things for this. You could garnish with pretty much any herb. I think mint would work nicely. Thyme. You could garnish with a slice of apple. You could even garnish with a slice of citrus. I've got rosemary growing in my garden, and actually it's just come into flower. So if I hold that a little bit closer, you might be able to see the sort of violet-colored flowers on there.
Oh, nice.
And of course, the aroma is amazing. And rosemary and apple, they pair really, really well. If you think like something like roast lamb, where you might have lamb and or pork, not lamb, where you might have rosemary as part of the cooking process, and then you serve it with apple sauce. Well, at least that's what we do in the UK. So these flavors are all going to combine together quite nicely. But also, rosemary's got that kind of woodsy quality to it. It's smells like it's of the forest, and that for me sort of speaks of McMurra. It sort of speaks of the use of oak in the product, and so you've got this sort of trinity of flavors there. You've got the apple, the whiskey, and the rosemary that are all kind of related to one another. And you think like Venn diagram of rosemary, apple, and McMurra, somewhere in the middle of that Venn diagram, you'd have this drink.
Cool.
Cheers.
Cheers. It looks great. It's also fun with highballs, what people kind of use, because we talked about glasses before, and it's so easy for people to do, like if we talk in the business in general, that they have such like super highballs that you don't really get the flavors. I think the highball is all about the spirit and try to balance it up with soda in general and try to work with the bubbles, or in this case,
the soda
Yeah.
tends to be the last thing that goes in, right? And
Yeah.
if you're making highballs and not considering the size of the glass,
Mm-hmm.
then the dilution is going to differ massively because you're going to keep all your other measurements the same: 25 ml of this, 12 and a half of that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you might be adding 50 ml of soda, or you might be adding 250 ml of soda, depending on the size of the glass. So really, when it comes to highballs, you need to understand how much soda it is you should be putting in there.
Yeah.
You need to understand the volume of your glass, and you need to adjust all ingredients, including soda, in order to meet that volume.
Yeah. No, I like that. Do you have like a favorite soda in general? Do you think like it's a big difference how much? Because some sodas is so hard on the bubbles and some are less hard, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I just go for the fizziest. The
Yeah.
reason being, of course, you're diluting some of that carbonation with the
Mm-hmm.
whiskey and any other ingredients you're putting in there. And for me, you're going to want as much carbonation as possible in the final drink. It's never going to be as fizzy as a glass of soda or a glass of Coke or any other carbonated drink because you're diluting it with other ingredients. So
Yeah.
maximum bubbles is going to maximum carbonation means you're going to get a drink that has some fizz in it, even if even if only 50% of your drink is soda water. So I think go for the fizziest you can get your hands on, really. I mean, the best way of doing it really is to have one of these soda streams at home,
Yeah.
because then you can carbonate it yourself. You can max out the bubbles, and you're not using single-use plastics either.
No, exactly. It's like the new. Have you tried the Twist and Sparkle?
Yeah.
Yeah, also a great product.
They're great. They're great. The only problem with those is that the cartridges are reasonably expensive, aren't they? So
Yeah,
you got
for what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a soda stream is probably the cheapest way of repeatedly doing it. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
if you're a sparkling water junkie, like I know some people that are like, oh, I don't drink still water. It's like flat water. Then
Mm-hmm.
you should have a soda stream in your house, or at least, or some sort of device in your fridge, or the dispenses carbonated water. Otherwise, you just get through so much plastic,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
just a waste of time.
Yeah. Awesome. But now it's my turn to actually do a cocktail. So the first time on the Sunday sessions, and I'm going a little bit more classic in the way. So we're doing an old fashioned with MACK, obviously, some Angostura, some maple syrup, and salt. So we're doing a little bit like the first thing we talked about was how much apple tones it's in the actual, both in flavor wise, but especially at the nose. So when you use the MACK, we're gonna do a pretty hefty meal here. We're gonna do like 60 mils. I'm not gonna do the small one. We're gonna do a big one, especially when we're home and no one can tell you here in Sweden how to do it. So that's a good thing. Some classic maple syrup. In the stores in Sweden, we have like you can't find as much like maple syrup. When you're in the UK, you can find a lot of pretty cool maple syrups actually in the stores. But in Sweden, we have like one. That's it. So if you're watching from Sweden, you know what it is. In UK, you can go a little bit more bananas. So about 60 mils of MACK, about 10 mils of maple. And I know like people in general seem to have less and less sugar in the old fashions, but I tend to have like 10 to 15 mils in every old fashioned. If I'm doing it just for myself, I'm doing like 20 because I'm a huge sugar fan. 2 dashes of Angostura. You don't have to use these small bottles. It's really ridiculous, but I think they look good.
Is that small bottle got enough in it just for one old fashioned? Is that the idea?
No, it says 2. You see
Does
it?
it?
Yeah. So it's good for 2. But it's, yeah. So you don't use it as many times. Just give it a little bit of stir and just add a pinch of sea salt. And the salt, I think, is the best thing in these kind of things when you use a single malt in general, because you really want that, because you have a little bit of smoky notes to this, and you have that vanilla tone that really goes forward because of the bourbon casks. And and salt just give it a kick in a totally different way. I think that's also a thing when you try whiskey. When you try a lot of whiskeys, just try it as you usually do, and then you just add a little bit of salt and just try it to see really what comes out of it. I think that is a really smart way to see what kind of whiskey it is. It's an honest thing to do with when you're trying whiskey, and a fun thing for people because it really gives it even more flavors, and you give it even more balance depending on what kind of whiskey it is, obviously. But for MACK, the salt is really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think adding salt to a drink is pretty much always a good move. Unless it's already salty. You know, it sort of universally brings out flavor, just like it does in food. I think probably bartenders are reluctant because they think, oh, well, drinks are sweet, why would you add salt? But it really does improve the flavor of a lot of cocktails.
Yeah, it's like cooking. Like you're adding salt to get balance. It's the same thing with.
I mean, the goal is not to make it taste salty, right? The salt shouldn't really be perceivable. It's just that it amplifies and brings some flavors to the front, right?
Exactly. Because do you remember back in the days, for like 10 years ago, when people said like Angostura beer is the salt and pepper to bitters is the salt and pepper to cocktails? But really, it wasn't. It was salt and pepper that was good for cocktails.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and Angostura always give a depth to everything, and it really goes well with the MACK because it's given even more deeper flavor than it already has. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good Sunday cocktail. So the thing we talked about before at the Sunday sessions, we're doing this because of keeping ourselves busy, obviously, but also to give something back to your bar. In this case, it's Black Rock. So for every sold bottle, we're giving £5 to Black Rock, and the more bottles, the merrier, obviously. So the promotion code when you go into macmillan.cu.uk is Black Rock. It's a pretty easygoing promotion code.
Should be pretty easy to remember, yeah.
Yeah, and for this time, I think we said about everything we need to say about both MACK, and we'll probably see you next Sunday then.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks for having me on, Emil. That's great. And I just noticed someone asked in the questions whether the drink's got a name. My drink doesn't have a name because I did just make it up, basically. But it's just a highball, right? I mean, it's an apple and rosemary highball.
Yeah, I think also when you do highballs, it's like I can think about like every cocktail doesn't need a name anymore. It's really what kind of if you have a base and you have like soda or apple juice in this case, it really doesn't have to have a name.
No, yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah.
I'm
definitely the first person to put apple juice, soda, and rosemary with whiskey either. I mean, I'm sure that's.
I think it is. It's totally unique. No, but it really is like if I tried it now, it would be really cool, and especially when like if you're grilling outside, this is a cocktail that goes really well in the summer. It doesn't matter where you are in the world.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned pork, didn't I? Rosemary and apple. Like, imagine grilling some. I don't know. What do you do? Like smoked pig or whatever on the barbecue. This is a drink to go with that, I would think.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Emil.
Thank you, Tristan. I'll see you next Sunday for the next Sunday sessions. Hopefully it goes everything. You're probably doing like 10 marathons until then. So good luck with that.
Thanks, mate.
Take care, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.